Hey everybody, here's a tank we haven't seen for a while, the Type 59. The main reason I brought it out is because I figured at least this would not end up in tier 10 matches, because West is just nothing but tier 10s at the moment with the missions on, and it would be relatively easy to get some missions done in this tank because it's still fairly strong. How wrong I was. This match though does go some way towards proving that not all pubs are redeemable, not even ones with bad stats. And teamwork does still sometimes exist in pub matches. As usual on this map, in a T54 derived medium, I'm going to go to the bowl. There's really not much else you can... Well, there's other things you can do in these tanks, but, you know, there's not much else you want to do, because you're going to be one of the first to get down here, and you've got that bouncy turret and a decent gun. Well, maybe not the Type 59, but it's a good position to get in early in the game. You could, I guess, go more to the west and ride up the hillside there, but then you've got gun depression issues, and yeah. This is an important position to hold, because if you get enemy mediums come up where I am now, except on your own side of the map, you can get shot in the back quite easily. So controlling this bowl is absolutely crucial, but people seem not to realise that, of course, and so they don't often come down here. First things first, a T150 appears, and then an IS. Now I can handle either one of these alone, but both of them gunning for me at once might be a bit of a problem. And as we can see, the replay bug still hasn't been fixed in 9.5. My tank is jittering around like it's on crack. So I get a shot through the front of the T150's turret there. While this gun is pretty awful, as far as I'm concerned, it will pen most things you face pretty easily. And most tier 6s pretty much anywhere you hit them. The T69 decides to come down after me, which would have been scary if this idiot had actually known how to aim. Instead, he fucks up most of his shots and rides up on a hillside, allowing me to easily pin him against it. But with the T150 coming down, I thought I was dead. T150 has the 107mm gun, 300 alpha, enough pen to go through my whole armor, basically anywhere. And so, yeah. Thankfully, the IS-2 comes to rescue me. He first finishes off the T69, and then holds the T150's attention long enough for me to get a shot in. But then the enemy IS comes charging down, and it turns into a bit of a clusterfuck here, as the IS Goomba stomps the IS-2, rolls off, and begins gunning for me. He stupidly shoots the ground in front of his face. I'm not sure what he thought he was doing there. But myself and the IS-2 both come out of it alive, albeit missing most of our hit points, and now our team controls this bowl. In fact, our team controls the map. The enemy team have pretty much rolled over and died. I'm not going to deny a puppy the gratitude he deserves for saving me, so I say thanks to the IS-2. Whether he knew what he was doing there or not, he kept me alive, and that's all that really matters. The poor JP4 is not likely to pen me. The JP4 is just a really awful thing to play through unless you're inclined to shoot gold. And even then, it's not really fun. It's a big step down from the Stug, which is still one of the better tier 5 TDs. And then, of course, you go up to the Jagdpanther, which is actually a pretty decent tank, but the JP4 is just the... Not least because it has to face Type 59s, and it will not really comfortably pen them frontally. With nothing left but the enemy IS-6, I roll through the cap to see if I can get a little bit more damage in before the end of the match. But I'm already over 3k, so I can't really complain. Of course, that won't stop me, I will anyway. And I'm able to get a shot into the IS-6's engine deck there as he backs up to get away from the rest of my team. Unfortunately, he then makes a decision to give the rest of his hit points to them and not me. I'm kind of conflicted on the issue of the Type 59. I think I've said this before, but I'll say it again. The Type 59 was never really overpowered in the way people think it was. The big issue with the Type 59 back in the old days was that the matchmaking brackets were much different, so you could quite easily end up fighting a mouse or an IS-7 in your tier 3 or 4 tank. Obviously that was broken to fucking back, and as soon as Wargaming realised that, and as soon as they realised that the lower population servers, particularly the NA server, were coming out with all kinds of weird matches that the Russian server may not have been, because of course the Russian server had so many more players and the matchmaker works better with the more players you have, they redid all the matchmaking algorithms and added in the 2-tier spread for the vast majority of tanks. So that removed that problem. The Type 59 could no longer beat up on tier 4s, at least unless the tier 4s were retard platooned into a tier 8 game. However, the other thing that made the Type 59 really strong was just the sheer number of them. It was immensely popular when it came out. It was not rare to see 5 or 6 of them per team. That's not per match, that's per team. You don't see that kind of numbers of any tank now, not even the E25, and that thing's hideously overpowered, more than this ever was. So yeah, you get just impromptu wolf packs of 5 or 6 Type 59s forming in every match. If you had that happening with any medium, it used to happen with the T-54 when it first came out, it would just be unpleasant to fight against. So that was the main problem. Once the Type 59 the novelty wore off, and once it was adjusted a little bit and the matchmaking was changed, there was no longer really much of a problem because you wouldn't see them that often anymore. In fact, now Type 59s are a relatively uncommon sight, at least compared to what they used to be. You might see 1 or 2 here or there, but you won't see several platoons of them per match. My opinion on the tank is it goes both ways. Its armor scheme is pretty good for a tier 8. Its main benefit is that tier 6s have trouble penning it. Tier 7s won't really, and tier 8s will go through you as if you're not there. The Type 59's armor will not stand up to same tier tanks, let alone higher tier tanks. A lot of people put a lot too much stock in the turret, forgetting of course that you have only 100mm of hull armor beneath that turret, and as well as it is sloped, it will still not bounce the 105mm guns that you start running into a tier 8. And even then, the 200mm turret armor, no, 220mm, sorry, I think, on the Type 59, 220 on this, and 200 on the T-54 from memory. Either way, somewhere around that. Yeah, it's good at bouncing incoming shots if they hit you right in the front of the turret, but again, tier 9s and back when you used to see tier 10s would go through that without trouble. But it still remains relevant because most tier 9 heavies and several tier 9 mediums and pretty much every tier 9 tank destroyer all have tier 10 guns. So they'll punch through you easily anywhere on your turret, doesn't matter, unless they just wing off the side. And even, a lot of same tier and some lower tier tanks will be able to pen the front of the turret if they hit you in the right spot. It's more about the actual bowl shape of the turret than it is the thickness of the armor. On top of that, you also have the cupola to worry about. Pretty much anything will pen that. And then we look at the mobility. The Type 59 has shit mobility for a T-54 derived tank. The T-44 is better in basically every regard, mobility-wise. It pretty sure is faster, or at least about as fast, has better horsepower to weight ratio, has better general agility, I think. It handles better, it feels nicer to drive. The Type 59, if you play a T-54 for a bit or a T-44 and then come back to the Type 59, it feels sluggish and unresponsive, and that's not a pleasant feeling coming from the T-54. In turn, it has really bad gun handling to make up for the fact it gets a 100mm gun on a medium at tier 8, which, is kind of unheard of until the 416 came out. The gun has okay pen. It's not brilliant, but it's not bad. But the real big issue is just the gun handling. It's really, really awful. The Type 59 can kind of shoot on the move, but not well. But has bad aim bloom, it has bad aim time, it's just a shitty, awful gun to have to work with, because quite often it will send shots everywhere but where you want them to go. It's really frustrating. And coming from the T54, again, which has really good gun handling, or the T44, which has pretty decent gun handling now that the LB1's available for it, the Type 59 feels like a downgrade. In most cases, I'd rather play the T44, because really the only thing the Type 59 has that the T44 doesn't is a bit of pen on the AP rounds and the bowl turret. And to be quite honest, the T44's turret will bounce things sometimes. You just need to be mindful of where your turret's pointing and what's actually shooting at you. The Type 59's turret will eat shots just as much as the T44's does if you aren't careful. The other, I suppose, really big selling point of the Type 59, the one thing that actually definitely goes in its favour, is the gun depression. At 8 degrees, it's better than pretty much any Soviet tank of its tier. It's better than the T-54. I'm not sure why the Type 59 gets 8 degrees of gun depression and the T-54 only has 5, but there you go. The magical 8 degrees of gun depression on the Type 59 is really quite a decent thing to have over its Soviet cousins, but overall I still don't think it's a great tank. I think it's an okay tank, and in the right hands it does well. Obviously the effect is magnified in platoons, so if you have a bunch of friends with Type 59s, yeah, if you get into a platoon you're going to probably stomp most matches you play. But, this is a big but, I still think the T-44 overall is a better tank for tier, and I think that the Type 59 does feel like a distinct downgrade if you are used to playing Soviet mediums. So people will inevitably argue with me. I know that a lot of goons think I'm an idiot because I don't like the Type 59 very much, but I suppose it comes with having played something like about 16 or 1700 games in the tank by now. I only recently overtook it as my most played in the Centurion. It just kind of got boring. It's not fun to play after that many games, and it feels just worse to me than my Soviet mediums. So the Type 59's been on an extended break. It only really comes out now if somebody wants to run a Tier 8 Pref platoon and I don't feel like playing my FCM. Otherwise, I haven't played it for quite a long time now. Of course, there is renewed furor over people trying to get it because it's being offered as a reward for the race to the Stug 4 contest. I mean, people are going to get excited about it because it has a sort of mythical ethos to it from back in the old days when everyone thought it was overpowered. You know, it could certainly seem that way if you didn't know why. But between that and the fact it's not the store anymore, I think it gets a lot more credit than it's really due, and people get a bit too overexcited about the Type 59 as a tank. Personally, I'd be more interested in something unique, like, say, the KV-5, or, I don't know, the KV-5. The KV-5 is a lot of fun, and it doesn't really play like much else. It's a lot more interesting as a premium than Type 59, even the FCM. But people are always going to be interested in getting what they don't have, I suppose, and because the thing has such a reputation, people are going to want it regardless of how it actually plays. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. I wish you the best of luck in the field, and I'll see you on the next one.